Finding your first job in Australia can be tricky, but I will tell you about 4 things that I wish I knew before coming to Australia to make that search for job a little bit easier. My name is Monika, and in this video I will share my short story about how I found my first job in Australia and what you could do to make that happen and what you could do to make that a little bit easier and less stressful. Before we start, I just want to let you know that this is all purely my experience. It's not a golden rule that's gonna work for everyone. Also, this can be a little bit biased based on the industry that I work for. It can be completely different for your career path or your industry, but those are kind of a general rules that may help, may not, depend on what you do and what job you are looking for. So, starting with number 1. I thought that being in my country, I can still find a job, and I can find a job, remotely, just applying on those websites like Seek.com, LinkedIn, Indeed, Seek.com.au, that's the biggest one at the moment. And I thought, okay, if I'm gonna go on that website and apply for some jobs, I get it. And I spent quite a lot of time. I don't want to say that I wasted my time, because at the end, yes, I found a job, still being in Poland. It turned out to be not a good job, but finding a job online, still being in your country, can be really tricky. I'm not saying not to do it, definitely go for it and try. However, quite often from my experience, that may be a waste of time. First thing, it's because in Australia, they don't want to hire someone that is overseas. You can obviously hide it somehow in your CV so no one knows that you're overseas, but it's easy to find out because you need to give your phone number. If they want to call you and invite you for an interview, they need to have your phone number. And then what you do? You don't have Australian phone number. Unless, some tricky bits and SIM cards and all that jazz, and yeah, maybe. But that would be the first obstacle. And the companies, they don't want to hire people that are overseas, really. Unless you are some, nautical engineer or brain surgeon or someone, then maybe. But all the other jobs, no, it's gonna be hard to find a job still being in your country. Keep looking, definitely, not saying not to do that. However, I would probably say from my experience, don't keep your hopes really high because realistically your chances are way bigger once you are in Australia. So that would be the first thing to know, I guess. My second mistake was to look for a job in a CBD. When I arrived, I was looking for a job in hospitality. So cafes, restaurants, hotels, those kind of jobs. Why I was looking for those jobs? Because I was on a working holiday visa, and on that visa you can only work half a year for one employer, which means essentially that any big companies, more professional companies, most likely they would not hire you because they will require training, and trainings are usually from 1, 2 to 3 months. So no company is gonna hire you and train you for 3 months and then they had to let you go in 6 months. So realistically, people on a working holiday visa, we do tend to work in hospitality, retail, those sorts of jobs. My idea was like, I'm gonna go to CBD, there's lots of companies there, and I'm gonna keep looking for jobs. The problem is with CBDs in Australia that yes, there are lots of companies, but those companies are exactly the one that they will not hire you, because those are not professional companies like banks, accountants, government companies. Probably not the best place. Obviously lots of restaurants and little shops, but then again, because it's in CBD, lots of people, lots of competition. So I spent I think a week just wandering around CBD in Melbourne. No kidding, but I was spending between 6 to 8 hours every day going with my CV from one place to another. I remember one place in Docklands in Melbourne. Actually, a guy asked me to do 2 hours trial, which is very common in restaurants and cafes. I think it's not exactly legal from the new rules and policies, but at that time it was very common. So they would ask you to work for 2 hours without payment. I remember it was like a small pizza place, and the guy asked me if I can chop onions, and I was chopping onions for 2 hours, and then he just then let me go. I think he offered me a job. I think I was just devastated mentally. I was like, oh my god, I'm not gonna be chopping onions so much every day. It's not like I could do it. I was doing worse things than chopping onions, but the pay and the guy, there was just something really dodgy about that place. So I had my red flags, and I was like, no. Anyhow, CBD probably not the best place. So now, where you should go? Where are those, prime locations to find a job? I didn't know about that when I was coming to Australia. But Australian cities, they are a little bit differently designed than cities in Europe. Like, in Europe we have one main square and then old town restaurants. And in Australia you have CBD, which is a central business district with lots of big high-rises and companies, some restaurants as well, pubs, rooftop bars and all that jazz. But then you have separate neighborhoods. In those neighborhoods they have a main street with lots of restaurants. Melbourne has those kind of neighborhoods just outside CBD, and the basically main streets were full of restaurants. There's a Lygon Street, for example, with lots of Italian restaurants, Greek restaurants. Then we have Fitzroy on the north, which is more hipster, small vegan cafes, that kind of vibes. Richmond is more Asian cuisine, depend which, if it's Victoria Street, that's more like an Asian restaurant. And then Bridge Road, that's more like a Liu cafes and more Australian shops and bakeries. So that those are like the famous one, but there's like more and more. So basically what I would suggest is to go on those main streets with your CV and just go from one place to another. Again, I didn't know about that. I actually, being in Australia, texted someone on Facebook group from a Polish community, and that guy offered, hey, I'm gonna pick you up in a city, we can go for a coffee, and then I will just drive you around and show you where you could go. And that's how I found my first job, but we're gonna talk about it in the next video. But coming back to 4 things. So the first one, looking for a job in your country, not exactly productive, but definitely give it a go. Second, looking for a job in CBD, in a city, depends what kind of job you're looking for, but if that's a customer service, probably not ideal. The third mistake, my CV. So you probably know that to get a working holiday visa you need to have higher education, because that's actually a requirement. So you need to have at least 2 years of higher education, so a bachelor degree. But then again, you're gonna be looking for a job in customer service, and in Australia, if you're overqualified, it's not that easy to get a job. And I didn't know about it because I thought that, hey, in my brain was like, if I have a master's degree, I think I'm smart enough to carry a plate or clean a toilet. And I kid you not, I went for some interviews for cleaning jobs, and I was asked if I have a certificate in cleaning, and I was actually quite shocked, because I was like, well, cleaning is a normal thing, everyone knows how to clean. So I thought, well, not exactly. Apparently in some cultures it's not that common to know how to clean. Anyway, my master's degree obviously didn't convince anyone that I know how to clean or I know how to carry, a tray with drinks. So then I was actually advised by one of the job agencies to remove education from my CV. That was actually quite, you might laugh about it, but it was quite emotional, and I think one of the hardest things I had to do at the beginning of my journey, because you know, I worked so hard to get that master degree. It was 5 years of my life education, and now you know it's something that you're proud of and you want to have it in your CV, but then you just had to take it out because you're not gonna get the job as a cleaner. Anyhow, yep, I removed my education, I changed my CV. Now, that's gonna be a little bit illegal. I changed my CV, adding some jobs that would match obviously the job that I was applying for, even though I didn't really have that experience, but I went with the rule, you know, fake it until you make it. And that's my advice to you guys. Really, it actually works miracles, especially, you know, if you're applying for jobs like cleaner, waitress. It's not a rocket science and they will train you. But if you, in your CV, you only have office jobs like I had in Poland, they will not give you those jobs as a waitress because they will be like, oh, well, she doesn't know how to carry a tray. Yeah, what I've done, I just removed all my experience from Poland because it was a professional experience in the you know, office setting. Again, not ideal. Definitely don't do it if you're applying to be a doctor or something. I'm kidding. So that's another thing, adjusting your CV, your resume to standard. What is important in Australia, you cannot put your picture in a CV, which I think is actually great because in my country, a picture is required, and from my experience, people are quite often hired based on their looks rather than experience. But here is different. Here is normal, as it should be. So don't put your picture, no one cares how you look like, if you are slim, fat, black, white, red, orange, whatever. It's what you have in your head, your skills, your personality matters a lot. So that's another thing. I was told, looking for a job, you need to show your personality. So when you enter to a cafe, don't just go and like, I'm looking for a job, that's my CV, can you hire me? Are you looking for someone? No, be bubbly, be expressive, like, hey guys, I'm looking for a job, I've been working here and there, this is my CV, oh my god, I love your place, I really would love to work for you guys, and you know, all that jazz. Obviously for me that was super difficult because I was not like that when I arrived. I was more shy, the English barrier, so yeah, it was difficult. But then I was told by my Polish friend, hey, if you want a job, you have to do it. You know, that's just the rule. They really look here for personality, especially in hospitality, customer service, retail. It doesn't matter, you might have 20 similar jobs, but the personality is what's really important. So yeah, change your CV, bring your bubbly personality out there, and you're gonna be good. Now the last fourth thing that I didn't know about, because I think in Poland I was never really looking into it, but maybe we have those in Poland. I'm not too sure. If you're Polish and you know about agencies, let me know. In Australia, quite common are the agencies, the staffing agencies for big events. So those agencies basically hire people for huge events like MotoGP, Formula One, Australian Open, all those, you know, sport events, music events, festivals, everything big. So they need, because those events, they happen from time to time, and they suddenly, you know, like just need like 1,000 people. So those staffing agencies, hospitality agencies, are quite common, and it's really good to sign up for one or two. So that's a really good side hustle because the money is great. At least it was great when I started. So just to give you a hint, 8 years ago, the minimum salary was $18 an hour gross. And so then after taxes, you would get probably about 15 net. And in those agencies, they would pay you about $35-40 an hour. So that was a pretty good money at that time. I'm pretty sure now they pay even more because the salaries every year, the minimum salary is going up. So comparing, now the minimum salary is 24 something. So I'm pretty sure those jobs now they pay even more. Again, it's not something that you're gonna have every day, so secure some other job, but it's good to sign up for those agencies just to get some, a boost of money now and then. And I worked for one was called National Workforce in Melbourne. Really nice, really good. I work with them for MotoGP on Phillip Island, a flower garden show. That was actually quite cool. I was carrying a tray with like 5 glasses of wine, and I just didn't keep the balance properly, and I threw all those glasses on a lady, a grandma, really nicely fancy dressed. Luckily it was white wine, so she wasn't that upset, but I was crying, I was panicking, obviously, she was wet, the glass on the floor, the noise, everyone looking at me. Anyhow, again, lots of stories. Those are the 4 things I wanted to share with you that hopefully will help you a little bit, maybe finding that first job. It's mostly when you're looking for hospitality and customer service jobs, but yeah, if you're on a working holiday visa, that's gonna be your industry most likely. So it can help. Again, if you're gonna be in regional areas, it might be a little bit different, but in the cities, yeah, just go outside CBD, change your CV, find some agencies, and perhaps talk to people around, because Australia, as any other country, it works on connections. So if you have someone who knows someone who knows someone, that obviously can help you to secure that first job. That's it. If you have any questions about looking for a job, let me know. If you want to share your story, how it was for you to find your first job in Australia, share that story in the comment. I'm really curious because I'm studying to be a migration agent, so all these stories are very interesting. But anyhow, on a positive note, next episode I will share with you my first job, because it was a really interesting job, exciting. It's a little bit a sad story as well. So thank you for today and have a lovely day. Ciao!